guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have an absolutely epic figure to take a look at. We've got another of these Ricsan Custom Toys super articulated kaiju, and as you can see, we've got the foghorn monster, aka the Rhedosaurus from the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. So, again, they continue to absolutely blow my mind with how cool their figures are, because they continue to give me super awesome, super articulated, quite obscure kaiju. Now, I will say, the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms isn't all that obscure, and most giant monsters kind of were inspired by that film, but when it comes to super articulated figures, you don't see this monster getting that treatment like ever, so I'm pretty hyped to have one here from Ricsan Custom Toys. You can see, just like with the Stan Winston Godzilla, we have the same type of box here, as we have like a really cool image of the figure, the name, as well as the Ricsan Custom Toys logo there, and then again a window area where you can actually see some, it looks like instructions potentially, but definitely a really quite nice looking box. And then on the back, you can see again the foghorn monster. You can see a nice image there of the figure itself. And then down here, you've got a QR code if you'd actually like to scan that right there. Maybe get that a little closer for you. And then, of course, collect them all, because there are quite a few figures out in their line already. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So we have ourselves a little old school pickup truck included, which I absolutely must say I love. Definitely a type of truck that looks like it would be from the time period this film was made. And then, of course, our Rhedosaurus itself. Let's go ahead and get the feet in a better position. Get this guy standing here and looking epic for sure. And you can see, again, we've got all the same type of articulated joints that we had seen on the Stan Winston Godzilla. The paintwork is actually very similar to the Stan Winston Godzilla. Like, the overall tones and stuff are a darker green. Now, I know the Rhedosaurus is actually a brighter green in the film, so I may end up repainting mine. I'm not too sure. But at the same time, I kind of like this one because it almost gives it like that sort of black and white kind of look. So it does look very, very cool because of that aspect as well. But again, the sculpt looks really, really nice. They've definitely captured the likeness of the Rhedosaurus overall, like the general appearance, the skin texture for the most part as well. Definitely looks maybe a little different from the film version, but it definitely looks very nice as a whole. They've got the ridges and everything moving down along the back like you see on the Rhedosaurus, the very cool looking tail and everything. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look, and we'll check this out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Rhedosaurus, you can see again it definitely sports the overall general head shape and everything of the monster from the film. It looks really, really good when it comes to the overall appearance of the head. And also the skin texture, I think, looks really nice. You can see if you get nice and close, it has some very vibrant skin texture. We've got the nostrils up here on the tip of the snout. You also have a bit of a lighter tone that's kind of dry brushed over the lower jaw. And then again, the darker green up here for the upper side of the Rhedosaurus. You can also see some ridges moving down along the course of the upper part of our Rhedosaurus. We do have an articulated jaw, which you can see can actually open really quite wide, and I don't think we need it that wide, but you can see we've got a darker reddish tone for the tongue. It does have a nice glossy look to it. You can also see we have that reddish tone there on the inside of the mouth on the upper side as well. Looks like maybe there is a dark wash in there. It's hard to tell, but it looks like there's a little variation of color to the inside of the mouth. You can see all of the teeth are sculpted individually, so they look really good as well, and they're all painted with a white coloration. And again, that jaw is super smooth as far as the application and the way it works. The eyes are also painted with a white, given a black pupil, something I don't think I mentioned a moment ago. But as you move down the neck, you have some articulated joints, of course. First of all, we've got one right here, which again, this is that kind of string / wire articulation, so it has very nice posability. You've got another spot right here, and then another spot right there. So as you move down, you do have the ability to turn the head of your Rhedosaurus pretty much any way you would like. And again, because of the way that it is articulated with the wire articulation, it really does allow you to pretty much get any pose, any position that you could possibly want for your Rhedosaurus, which is a great thing. As you move down, you can see all sorts of kind of creasing and wrinkles in the neck. You can also see nice variation to the skin texture, kind of like larger scales right there, finer scales up here. We still have more of those ridges running down along the back, a little cluster of them right there. Then as you move down into the mid-back area, you can see that we get some very large ridges, again, just like you see on the Rhedosaurus in the film, and you can see that the skin texture here looks pretty decent as you move through the course of the body here of the Rhedosaurus. My camera just doesn't want to focus on it for some reason. I don't know why. But as you move down into the front leg, you can see some clusters of larger scales and stuff moving down here through the leg. And then you can also see again that the foot sculpt looks quite nice. We have a little variation of grays as you lead down into the foot here. The nails are painted with a black. Again, they look really good. And then actually, as far as the articulation goes, of course, you have the articulated leg. You can move forward and back. You can also come out away from the body if that's what you'd like to do. And then, of course, the elbow. Let's go ahead and grab this a little better. The elbow, which you can, again, bend it back, bend it forward, swivel it if you choose to. And then the same deal for the wrist. You can pretty much, articulate it any way you would like as far as that goes. And then as you move back, of course, you've also got the midsection articulation, which helps to give you even more posability for your Rhedosaurus, which is really fun. The skin texture continues to look quite nice as you move back. You can see some of the lighter tone has dry brushed out quite a bit of the detail here. And again, you can see that lighter tone on the underside of the figure, as well as the Ricsan Custom Toys logo on the underside of the foot. As we move back to the rear leg, again, some more of those grays have been added in here to the leg. You can also see the nice bend in the leg. Again, this is exactly how it looks when it comes to the position it stands in the film. You have the articulation here as well, again in the hip region, same type of articulation where you can kind of move it out away from the body. And then you've also got ankle articulation. Same type of articulation we saw on the wrist. We don't actually have knee articulation for the rear leg, though, but you don't really see it articulate the rear legs very much. It's almost always crouched in this position, so I guess that makes sense. But as you lead back here, again, into the tail, you continue to have the ridges moving along the top. You also have like some scoots following along the side of the tail, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 joints of articulation as you move out through the length of the tail, which again allows you the ability to pose that tail any way you would like, any direction you would like. It very nicely slides right into the positioning you would like it to. And again, as you lead out through the course of the tail, you lead out here toward the tip of the tail, you can see it does end in a nice point, but it also has a larger ridge out here, kind of like that very interesting ridge line following along the spinal column again of our Rhedosaurus. As you turn it around, you're really not going to see much in the way of difference because, again, it is a super articulated, super posable figure. So you're going to see pretty much the same thing again on both sides, but you can see that it looks absolutely awesome on both sides. I'm just so hyped to have an articulated Rhedosaurus now in my collection, something I definitely didn't think I would ever have, but thanks to Ricsan Custom Toys, I now do. And then we've also got the little extra, which is the pickup truck, which you can see, again, definitely sports the overall look and appearance you would expect it to have for the time that this film was made. He definitely did a great job of matching up the truck to the way that it should look, again, for the time period. And it is also very nicely detailed, which you can see. So definitely another very nice addition, just like we saw with the Stan Winston Godzilla. Very cool extras consistently included with these figures. As far as a size goes, for a length in the positioning that it's currently in, actually, maybe we should put the tail down all the way so we can kind of get like a more accurate length, I think. So I'd say you're looking at about 9.5 inches or around 24 centimeters. And then for a height, just a hair under 3.5 inches or around 9 centimeters. Of course, you could change the height. You could position the figure up taller and stuff like that. That's really up to you, but that's just the general size for the figure in the positioning it's currently in. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Rhedosaurus from Ricsan Custom Toys. And you can see, again, it's a little on the smaller side, honestly. It's not small, but it's also not huge. It's definitely a very nice, very convenient size, but also, I would say, a fairly nice size because it's not overly large. You know, it's not something that's going to take up a mountain of room in your collection, but it's also not so small that it's unimpressive. I feel like the size is actually really quite nicely done. We've also got a size between the Stan Winston Godzilla from Ricsan Custom Toys and our Rhedosaurus, again, to further give you an idea of the size of this figure if you happen to have one or the other. We've also got a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus in here because in this situation, you know, I don't really have any other Rhedosaurus figures that are like this. The only ones that I have are much larger models, and those aren't going to size well with this. So I'm trying to, you know, come up with a few random figures that might fit this one fairly decently in a comparison, and obviously many people that watch my channel do have these figures, or at the very least maybe one of them, so hopefully a comparison that might help. And here you have the Collect Day Deluxe Dimetrodon, which you can see these two are kind of similar in size, just obviously a bit more length on our Rhedosaurus. And then for a pretty interesting comparison, we have the Hiya Toys King of the Monsters Godzilla next to our Rhedosaurus from Ricsan Custom Toys, just to give you an idea of how these size up next to each other if you do happen to have the Hiya Toys Godzilla. And then for one more comparison, one final comparison, we have one of the Playmates Godzilla figures, and most kaiju collectors would have at least something from one of the Godzilla vs. Kong films, so hopefully if you do, this will help to further give you an idea of the size of this Rhedosaurus. So this Ricsan Custom Toys Foghorn monster, aka the Rhedosaurus from The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, is another very nice figure. It really is quite well done, and just in general, the fact that we have a super articulated version of a Rhedosaurus is amazing. And again, if you actually check out Ricsan Custom Toys on Instagram, most of what they produce I feel like is going to impress you. If you are a kaiju collector and you go check out the stuff that they're currently working on, and of course the stuff that they already have available, you know, you're really going to be quite blown away. They have so many very cool figures out already, including a Gorosaurus, which I am definitely hoping to get my hands on at some point, because that's one of my favorite, you know, Godzilla or Toho, however you want to term it, kaiju of all time. But again, this one is also one of my favorites. It's one of the earliest kaiju films that I ever had the pleasure of seeing. I remember watching it way, way long ago when I was very young. I think it was on the channel TNT, if I remember correctly. They used to have like these monster marathons, and this film was always on there, and I was always so happy to see it because it's a great movie. It really is. And to now have a super articulated version of this kaiju is honestly fantastic. Again, the sculpt is really well done. It overall captures the likeness for sure of the Rhedosaurus, and the fine detail looks pretty good. I don't know if it's absolutely picture perfect to the Rhedosaurus in the film. Heard so much when it comes to people saying that this model is incorrect or that model is incorrect that I'm no expert, that's for sure. But from what I can tell, it definitely looks really good. And of course, you've got all sorts of articulation through the course of the figure. And I will say the articulation of Ricsan Custom Toys is some of the best out there when it comes to the wire type of articulation. I feel like they really do quite excel. And the advantage of that type of articulation is I think it's a lot easier to pose your figure in pretty much any position you would want, more so than joint articulation, which is always a great thing. You also have some paintwork for this one with a darker green, maybe a little darker than you actually see on the kaiju, but again, you know, it does kind of give it almost that black and white type of a look, which I think is actually really quite cool. I'm considering giving mine more of a paint job closer to what we see in the film, but at the same time, I also like the paint that we have here, so I'm kind of torn on that. Something for a rainy day, maybe. We'll just decide on that later on, I guess. But again, you also have a pickup truck included, which is really cool. Again, definitely a nice touch to add into this set. And as a whole, again, another fantastic release from Ricsan Custom Toys, if you ask me, and definitely one worth picking up. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can head on over, and of course check out their Instagram, contact them about purchasing one of these. Definitely a figure, like I said, a huge recommendation worth adding to any kaiju collection. So make sure you check them out, and if you do not have social media, you can always contact me and I can contact them for you. But one way or another, again, a very awesome figure, worthy of any kaiju collection. So make sure you grab this if you are interested, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.